Hi, my name's Jodi DeJong-Hughes. I work for the University of Minnesota Extension. Hi, Carl. Yes, Carl does too. And we're so happy that we all get to see each other.
I know.
Yeah. And I live about 35 miles from here. And today I have Baily with me. And she's a grad student on campus in St. Paul at U of M. And so she's going to help describe kind of how this whole soil pit formed. And then I'll go through it and talk about what I see on a farmer level. Okay? So go ahead, Baily.
Okay. Yeah, hi, I'm Baily. And so actually it's really cool to get to the opportunity to be in a soil pit. And what happened was 13,000 years ago we had big giant glacier that was coming through like a bulldozer, was pushing all these rocks, kind of crushing up these rocks. And as the glacier started to melt, it actually left behind all these different deposits of the rocks. And actually, at one point, there was a glacial lake here as well, which a lot of silt and a lot of clay, and that's why we have a lot of silty clay textures. And so one thing we can tell that this material was actually deposited from farther away and brought over here because the parent material is not carbonates, but if I put vinegar or acid on here, you'll see a bunch of fizzing. And so we know that this stuff was brought over, and thankfully so, because it is actually very incredibly productive. Look how thick that A horizon is. Unlike anywhere else, really, it's amazing how we have such incredible, it's a mineral soil. A lot of people get the misconception of this is organic matter, and there is organic matter breaking down in the soil, but actually as it's decomposing, it darkens the mineral soil particles. And so we aren't just seeing organic matter residue accumulation. So a lot of people think you can build topsoil, but actually it just happens over thousands of years. We start to see these different colors and horizons come out. But until 10,000 years ago, it would look like this down here. If you guys can see this brown, it looked like that throughout the entire profile. And so as we see this, we can see it has very dark colors, very indicative of very productive soil. And so it's just very important to recognize that once we lose this topsoil, you can't get it back. We can't build the A horizon. So maintaining your soil structure and maintaining your soil amounts is incredibly important for productivity.
Yes, very much. And on that note, so this is a map of the U.S. and it shows the darker the color, the higher the organic matter level. And you can see that Iowa and Minnesota and even into Wisconsin, we are blessed with some of the best soil in the whole world. And yes, I'm biased, but it's still scientifically true. And so sometimes our farmers can kind of abuse the soil a little bit because it bounces back pretty well. As we lose this topsoil, the resilience of the soil will diminish greatly. So my main thing with farmers is helping them reduce their tillage, build soil structure, and I have coworkers that do a lot in the other methods for building soil health, and we all get together because farmers need many tools in their toolbox, not just reducing tillage. And this one, just for fun, this one is, I go up in an airplane almost every spring, and this one's showing wheel tracks, so compaction. I didn't know how many farmers we'd have versus other industries. And so this is wheat, and you can see the compaction in it. And here's soybeans, and anything that's green had wheel tracks there. And so I call it, if your crop is doing better in the green tracks, fluffy soil syndrome. So and we even produced something on it, or did a academic journal on it, so now it is in the scientific world. Fluffy soil. They're like, great, Jodi. Yep, I'm the one with the blue butterfly knife too. Nobody takes it. So what I do when I come into a soil pit is we look for soil structure. Now what would be nice is if we had one that had no structure so that you could see the differences, or if you're on top of a hill versus at the bottom of a hill. So this would usually, if you are driving around and you see those tan hilltops out there, they're farming this. That means they lost all of this. So I'm really big on stopping erosion. Because again, we have the best soil in the world, and we don't want to give it to the Gulf of Mexico, and we don't want to give it by wind to, the Atlantic Ocean, which, by the way, what was it, 2 years ago we had tan soil, or we had tan soil on top of our snow.
Yep.
It came from Texas, yes. So we don't want their soil, it's crap. Come on, we want to keep this. So the darker the soil, a lot of times the higher the organic matter level. I would say he's probably at about 4 here. Anybody know the numbers here? 4.2?
We haven't done any soil tests recently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say
it's
that-
high.
Yeah.
Now when we broke the prairies were closer to about 10% organic matter, and so we've gone way down. But what Luke's doing is by stopping the erosion, stopping from losing the best soil up here, he's helping to maintain this and also build organic matter. Like Baily said, you can't build soil. It does take thousands of years to build an inch of soil, but you can build organic matter and make your soil more productive. So we go through and we just pick through, and it's a beautiful soil. I think I'm going to steal some of it because I can't always find this kind of soil. We look for structure because what structure does a lot of things. So let's take one that's not structure. Okay, like this. Yeah, you want to hand them around? Okay, so if you see this one, it's not in, they call them little aggregates. So like these little things here, see them hanging? And this one doesn't. So if it was going to rain, which one would take in the rain quickly?
The right.
Right. Right? What?
The dark
Oh,
soil.
my left. Okay.
The black one.
Sorry, no, I've never had anybody say that before. Sorry, I was given. Okay. Same with wind erosion. Okay. You get, if you look at soil particles, there's sand, silt, and clay in here. And clay is actually, an individual clay particle is the microscopic. You cannot see it with your naked eye. So it blows away very easily. And a lot of our soils are clay loams and have a lot of soil, clay in them that can blow away when they're not covered. So it's fun to see this pit here, and I just love playing with soil too. There are differences between...
She gets paid for that.
I do. I get paid to be with the soil. It's awesome. I did. Okay, this is totally off the subject, and I do that a lot. And I read this thing that said that there's microbes in here that act like Prozac. And I was like, yeah. And so I went and I went, oh, I better look that up before I tell people. And so I did. I found a couple of places that said, yeah, there are some. So I'm going to bring in a bucket in the wintertime into my kitchen and just play with it. So, you know, people who are gardeners and stuff, there are some real neat things in here that we have no idea about. So we look at, when I go into the soil pit, how, like Baily said, how deep is this topsoil here? And it is a horizon. And then we call this subsoil. And I look and see if there's areas that I can't dig out. The reason why I can't dig out in this one is actually because the roots are holding it together. When I'm in a corn or soybean field, I can always dig soil out. Okay. And it's not against corn and soybeans. These are just different crops. It's great to add in more diversity. It helps with the resiliency of the soil. But you can see what can happen if the soil gets smeared. Okay, you can see that would not let in rain very easily. So with our changes in climate, we're getting more and more intense rainfalls in a short amount of time, and our soils have got to be able to infiltrate that water. Because what did you give for rain just this last week?
We got 8/10.
8/10. Okay.
Yep.
So if you dig down through here, he is actually very dry. We had subsoil moisture, but that's what our crops are living on right now. And if you look at that soybean field over there, I mean, look at almost half the fields right now. They're really struggling. And so it's very dry down here. I actually worry very much for next year. If we don't get a recharge here, our roots will have nothing to grab onto to live off of. But up here it is moist, and I can actually tell where it starts getting drier and how much that half inch or almost an inch sunk into. The other thing that when you can tell is the soil is dry is where'd they go? Oh, they already disappeared. I had little earthworms, and they were curled up in little balls, and they were right about this level here. So they'll go down to where it's cooler and a little moisture, and they'll just stay there, and they'll curl up when they're when it gets too dry out there. Now that I can actually get one. So this is in that columnar structure. Or what? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been out of school a long time. Some people, I've heard them say, oh, it should look like coffee grounds all the way down. 6 inches of topsoil in an acre weigh 2 million pounds. So there is no way you can have crumb structure all the way down. Okay, it just won't. It will turn into little columns. So what I try to help farmers with is what's reasonable that they can expect of their soil, because sands are different than clays. What you grow makes a difference. How good a soil structure you have here. If you go and look at where the tile is, I know that's a concern with Kernza, is that it's going to grow down. This is, by the way, you don't see this in corn or beans. Corn can go 4 feet, but it's usually not that intense. Wheat and beans are more around 2 feet, and again, not this much. But this crop, this is the 3rd year here. So that's one of the huge benefits to a perennial, is it's covering the soil surface, and it's wicking, it's going through the whole soil, helping the whole profile. And microbes love it, worms love it, arthropods, and that's a whole other study, but they love it. And so we help farmers try to figure that out. And if Kernza could be made into a crop that becomes like one of our primary crops, oh my gosh, that would make me happy, because the erosion would be pretty much nil. You would not have anything moving off with water or with wind. You keep it covered for 3 years. And I like that about alfalfa too. But alfalfa they don't let grow really tall, because you gotta feed the cows. So, where are those little buggers? Anyways, it's just fun to dig through here. Oh, you can see here, here's a worm channel. Stop. Here. And the roots follow it and are coming out of it. Here's the channel here. You can see the 2 holes, and here's roots that will grow through it. Mother Nature is very lazy. She's a lot like me. And she will take the path of least resistance. And roots will always do that. So you can see them here coming out of a wormhole. Here, you can see a wormhole. And so worms, what they help do is make large holes for the water to get into the soil very quickly. Soil structure, what it does, has large pore spaces and very, very small pore spaces. So what it does is it lets water go through very quickly, but has the small pore spaces to hold on to water for later on when your crop needs it, when it gets droughty out. So I help farmers do this. The other thing that these are wonderful at is they are your #1 defense against soil compaction, because they act like mini columns in the soil that hold up the weight of equipment. So the better, more protected your soil is, the more you can drive over on top without compacting the soil below. So there's a lot of great things about a perennial crop like this. What else? Oh, you can also see here, like the earthworm brought down dark soil. So earthworms, as they come, they're eating through here and they're depositing, and they're also bringing these back up. So you can see little areas where they brought that soil back up, and so they kind of, well, they're a no-tiller's best friend, because they're doing tillage. They're moving everything around for you. What else?
Yeah, free pours, right?
Free pores.
Free work. You don't have to pay them. They'll do it for free.
Yeah, they do all the work.